Hello everybody and welcome to Storm Reads, and today I'm going to be attempting to do my September wrap-up again. I made a wrap-up a few days ago, it's probably been a week or so ago, and I went to try to edit it and I couldn't get it to work. The video wouldn't edit on the app that I use. It just kept crashing for some reason. So I'm going to try to do it again and see if that works. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So I've got a lot of notes over here to help me try to remember some things, and hopefully I remember what some of the books were about that I need to talk about. I did do a mid-month wrap-up, so I will briefly mention those books, but I won't go into any kind of details because I've already talked about them, and if I can figure it out, I'll put the card up here. If not, it'll be down below. And with that, I'm just going to get into things. I did 3 readathons in September, and I was very proud of myself because I actually made it through all the books that I was supposed to read, and I actually got in some extra books. So mainly I'm going to talk about the books that were for the readathons, and then I will just briefly mention some of the other ones that I read during the month. But I just wanted to kind of concentrate on the ones for the readathon. And so I did Beccas Readathon, the Monsterathon, and a touch of Whimsey's Adventures in Wonderland. So I'm just going to start with one and go through the next one and then the next one. And some of these books will be mentioned repeated because I did use some of the same books for the readathons, but I think it might be easier for me if I just do one readathon at a time and refer to my notes. Okay. So Beccas Readathon, I rolled 5 times and I got a friend recommendation on the first roll, and so I had a friend to recommend something to me, and she wanted me to try this one out. And so I did the remaking by Clay McLeod Chapman, and to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of this one. Yeah, it's mentioned in my mid-month wrap-up where I talk about it a little bit more, so you can check that out. And I gave this one 2 stars. Just wasn't a big fan. And then the next one was supposed to be a 5-star prediction, and I predicted that I would give this one 5 stars because I like middle grade mysteries, and I've heard a lot of good things about this one, but I didn't quite get there. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is A Green Glass House by Kate Milford, and it is about Milo, who his parents run this B&B, and it's kind of like in a smuggler's place, and so a lot of the people that go there are smugglers and thieves and things like that. And it's supposed to be over Christmas break, and there's not supposed to be anybody scheduled to come there. It's supposed to be Milo's time to relax and his parents' time to relax and not have to do anything. But all of a sudden, one after another, there are guests, and they just keep coming, and there's a whole house full of guests, and it's kind of ruins his whole break. But there is a young girl that is there, and they kind of hang out and create a game, and there are some mysteries that happen, some things go missing, and they're kind of curious about why all these people have suddenly showed up. There's a map involved and all kinds of stuff like that, and it was a fun adventure, but it just wasn't a 5-star adventure. So I gave this one 3.5 stars, and I would like to try the second one to see what happens, with the continuation, but it just didn't hit the mark for me. The next one was a book recommendation from Becca. It was Becca's recommendation, and this one I was almost afraid I wouldn't find anything because she likes to read a lot of fantasies, and I'm not a huge fantasy person, but she did do a mystery recommendation where I found Sadie by Courtney Summers, and so I went ahead and listened to this one because I had been curious about it. It had been a pretty big hyped book, and I'm not sure if it was worth the hype, but I did enjoy it enough. I gave it 3 stars. I think it might have got more if I would have liked the ending a little bit better, but I wasn't a big fan of how it ended. But it is told in like two different perspectives. You've got Sadie, who is she has kind of run off and trying to find out who killed her sister. She knows pretty much, she's pretty sure of the guy, and she's just trying to track him down. And then you have the podcast part where the grandmother has asked this podcast guy to try to find her, and they do a podcast called The Girls, and so you get that in there and everything. And I liked it, I enjoyed it, it just wasn't great for me, and so it got 3 stars. And so the next one I had was for a person of color representation, and with this one I went ahead and did Night of the Mannequin by Stephen Graham Jones. And this one I wasn't a big fan of either. I tried his other one, The Only Good Indians, and I didn't like it either. So I do believe that his writing style and his type of horror just isn't for me, and you know, that's fine. Everybody else that I know, except for my friend, because we buddy read this and we both gave it 2 stars, so I feel better about that. But she did like The Only Good Indians, so she's still on the fence about him, and will try more, where I'm just done, I think. But it's a novella about what happens when this guy and his friends decide to prank one of their other friends at a movie theater by putting a mannequin in the movie theater, and it has some really bad consequences and everything, and it just didn't go where I wanted it to go, and I think that is a lot of why I was a little disappointed in this one. But yeah, I gave this one 2 stars, and I don't know, I just didn't like it. His writing style is not for me. I had a hard time with it, and yeah, it happened. And then the last one for Beccas Readathon, I drew a chance card. And so on the chance card, it had The Forever House by Tim Wagner. Now this was one that I was needing to read and wanting to read. I got this from Flame Tree Press, and I got this earlier in the year and still hadn't read it, so I really needed to do it. And I'm glad I read it, but at the same point, I was a little disappointed in it. I didn't like it quite as much as I've liked the 2 previous books that I've read from him. He is known, at least for the books that I've read, for being extremely strange and weird with his horror, and this is no exception. I mean, it was really weird. It's about the Eldridge family who moves into this like cul-de-sac, and they feed on people's fears and things like that, and they are excited to be moving into this new place so that they can munch on some good old fear and things like that. And they're really strange. It kind of reminds me of like the Addams Family, except for a lot more eccentric, strange, and horrific. There's Father Hunger, the Weremother, the Non-Sister, the Low Prince, and the Grand Other. So yeah, they've got strange names, and then they actually have like actual names that they use whenever people are around them. But yeah, basically it's about them feeding on the people in the cul-de-sac, and it's you either die or you make it out alive kind of situation, and they could care less either way if you survive or you don't survive. There's just things in this book that I just didn't care for. I don't like reading stuff about pedophile type people, and it has just some icky situations and sexual innuendos that I just wasn't a big fan of. And so yeah, it brought it down for me, and I gave this one 2 stars. It was somewhat entertaining, but there were just the things in it that I just didn't like. I still like Tim Wagner, and I will always try some of his books. Like I said, this is my 3rd one from him, and I've liked the other 2 that I've read, and this one just didn't hit it for me, I guess. I like it. So that are the 5 that I read for the Beccas Readathon. And so the next one is the Monsterathon, And for that, I did Team Haunts, because there was 3 different teams. And the first one for Team Haunts is Under the Bed, to read a book about that's has either a black or an indigenous author that you've been sleeping on. And I necessarily haven't been sleeping on Stephen Graham Jones, but I did use Night of the Mannequins. I don't know if I said that right the first time, but Night of the Mannequins for that prompt, because I had been kind of sitting on it for the fact that I didn't like the first book I read from him, so I was kind of worried I wouldn't like that one, which I didn't, and so I used that for that prompt. And then the next one was The Friendly Neighbor's House, which I used the remaking for that one, and we all know I didn't like that one either. And then for the Secret Crypt, I used Sadie, because we were supposed to read a mystery of some sort, and so I used that for that one. And then the last book was Comfort Book, and that was, to read something that, is like a comfort read for you. And for that, I went with Murder at Queen's Landing by Andrea Penrose. And I love historical mysteries, and mysteries like this are just kind of a comfort read for me, and I really like this series. This is number 4 in the series. It's called the Rexford and Sloane series, and in this one, it has to do with can you trust your friends and things like that. And in this one, their friends get involved in something, and then there is a murder, and then there is a bunch of other things going on, and then the friends disappear. And so Rexford and Sloane have to figure out exactly what happened. They don't want to believe that their friends are involved in this, or that they might have done something that drastic and bad, and so they try to solve the mystery and everything. And I really like this one. I like the way where this one is heading with the romance that is involved with Rexford and Sloane. It's kind of been a bit of a slow burn, and you've been kind of rooting for them and wanting to push them together a little bit, and so yeah, I really like this one, and I gave it 4 stars. Then we were supposed to read a short story for our team. Yeah, that was it. And I did read the short story for our team. It was called The Box. I didn't like it, and so and you could read the other stories for the other 2 teams, and I just didn't do it. Just wasn't a fan of the one that I read, and so I just never did continue. I thought I would, but then I didn't. So there was 2 other ones that I should have read, but I didn't. So the third readathon that I did was the Touch of Whimsy Adventures Through Wonderland. It was a middle grade readathon, and it had this cute little map that you were supposed to kind of follow and everything. And the first one was Down the Rabbit Hole, to read a book set in another world. And I chose The Fantastic Tales of Nothing by Alejandra Green and Fanny Rodriguez. This is a graphic novel, and I can't really tell you a whole lot about what happened because I don't remember anything. It's not anything that was real memorable. It was kind of a fitting name because I didn't feel like anything happened. Like, nothing happened through this whole book, except this guy has some kind of magic powers that he realizes that he has, and there are some bad guys after him, and he runs into this lady here who can't speak his language, and she kind of saves him, and they meet up with a couple of other people that are a different kind of species, I think, or something. And yeah, they go on an adventure, and it did get kind of interesting towards the end, but I'm not sure if it got interesting enough that I want to continue on with it or not. I was originally going to give this 3 stars, but I think the more I talk about it, I think it's more like a 2.5, maybe 2-star read. So the next thing was Flower Garden, and that was to read an aesthetically pleasing book. Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. I think that has an extremely pleasing cover. It's like really cool. And this is a middle grade horror book that was about a young girl who she rescues a book from being dumped into the pond, and the lady that had the book was kind of crazy acting, but she saves the book and she decides to read it, and it's kind of like a journal. And then her school goes on a trip and they go to like this farm, and while she's there she learns about the people from the farm, and they have the same name as the people in the book. So she's thinking that, well, maybe if they're real, then the sinister smiling man that is in the book might be true too. And I think that's the little scarecrow looking thing there. And yeah, her and a couple of others that get off the bus when they were told by the bus driver that they should get off, and everybody else thinks that he's crazy, but she isn't quite sure if he is or not, because since it seems like some things are happening that were in that book, so she decides to get off and to follow her. And so then they end up having to try to figure out what's going on and save the school bus full of kids. And so yeah, it was cute. I liked it. I would like to read the next one in the series if I can get my hands on it. My library doesn't have it, but yeah. So maybe one day I'll get to read the second one. But yeah, I really did like this. I gave it 4 stars. And so the next place on the map was to make yourself a cozy reading snack, which I did, and I will post a picture here of a couple of things that I made during the month of September that were very tasty. And then the next thing is The White Rabbit's House, and it's to pick up a book for a cozy night in. Now, that one, I didn't really pick a specific book for that, and so I don't know, maybe I didn't exactly do that prompt, but I do read most of my books at night, and so any of the books that I was reading, I mainly read at night. So, I mean, you can consider any of those books that I read. But yeah, I didn't really just pick one out for that. And then the next one was The Queen of Hearts Palace, and it was to pick a book that you think you'll love. And so for this one, I picked, of course, The Green Glass House by Kate Milford. And we all know that I didn't quite love it. I liked it. It didn't quite get as many stars as I wanted to give it, and so not sure if it exactly hit the mark for this one, but it was red. And then the next one is the Cheshire, I can never say that, Cheshire Cat, and that was to pick a book that was strange and mysterious. So with this one is where I DNF'd my only book from my original bunch of books that I had picked out for these readathons. So I thought I'd pretty good because I pretty much stuck to the books. But I DNF'd The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. This is a mystery from 1979, and I've heard so many good things about it, but I just did not like it. And I read a good chunk of it. I mean, I was probably more than halfway through it. I just could not trudge any longer. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't find it interesting. The characters were pretty bland, and I just couldn't do it any longer. So I traded that one out for a book that I read and absolutely enjoyed, and it fit the criteria for that. So I'm going to use The Whispering Pines by Heidi Lang and Katie Barkowski, I think is how you say it. And I gave this one 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It is a super creepy middle grade, and it was very strange and mysterious, so I think it fits the prompt very well. And I talked about this one in my mid-month wrap-up, so you can check out more of what I thought about this one, but I recommend it if you've got middle graders that love the spooky. Now, it does have quite a few really kind of spooky for, at least I think, for middle grade. But I absolutely loved it. But so you might check and make sure that they can handle what's in it before you let them read it, maybe. But I think it's great for adults too. So go ahead and give it a go. But yeah, really love that one. And then the last thing you were supposed to do was the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, and you were supposed to join them for their live costume party, which I missed. I'm really bad about jumping on when lives are on, and so yeah, I totally missed that, but that's okay. Anyway, so that is the books that I read for the readathons, and so I do have a few other books that I did read along the way. And one of the books that I read that didn't have anything to do with the readathons was Misfits by Hunter Shea, and this one was different. I really love Hunter Shea. He's one of my favorite authors, and this one is about the Melonheads, kind of urban legend, and it's about a group of kind of ragtag, kind of late teens, early 20s. I'm not really quite exactly sure if they were in high school or college. I don't remember. But it's set in the 90s, and one of the girls gets raped by this older guy, and they decide to take revenge out on him and put him in the woods where they know about the legend of the Melonheads there. Some of them don't think it's real, but the one guy knows it's real, and he goes and wants to tie him up there. Well, they do something that they weren't supposed to while they were there, and they broke a rule, and that kind of brings the Melonheads out into the open, and so they usually stay in their woods where, if you come to them, then that's your, trouble. But in this one, they end up kind of breaking out and going into the actual town and kind of wreaking some havoc and everything, and it was really good. I gave this 4 stars. Probably would have gave it 5 stars, but I didn't like the ending. The ending was a little strange. The ending was very strange. And it just kind of gave me the what the kind of thing. And yeah, so like I said, I really enjoyed it, and it would have gotten 5 stars, but yeah, didn't like the ending, so 4 stars. But it was still a good read, and if you like urban legend type things, you should give it a try. And then another one I read was Clowns in the Cornfield by Adam Cesar, and I did talk about this in my mid-month wrap-up, so you can check out what I thought there. But I will tell you that I thought it was decent, and it was okay. A few things I didn't like, and I gave it 3 stars, but it was fun for what it was. Okay. So the next books that I have to talk about, I don't have a picture in my Kindle, so I'll just have to put it up here. But I talked about, I may not post a picture of these, but I talked about Rolling in the Deep and Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant in my mid-month wrap-up, and it was audiobooks that I listened to, and they were okay. I like the Killer Mermaid parts. I wasn't a big on some of the other things and the science stuff, so I gave them 3 stars apiece, but yeah, they were okay. And then I listened to Timeless by Gail Carringer. It was number 5 in the Parasol Protectorate series. It's the last in the series. My friend and I buddy read that series, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good ending to the series, even though some of the things at the ending I thought were a little bit far-fetched for some of the characters in the story. But overall, it wasn't too bad. They go to Egypt to try to find out more stuff about the Godbreaker curse, I think is what it's called, and her father, and some stuff to do with vampires over there. And I can't really talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars, so I liked it. Another one that was talked about in my mid-month wrap-up was Girl Unframed by Deb Coletti, and I did have this for review from Simon Pulse, so So Simon & Schuster, and I wanted to like this one more than I did. I didn't care for it too much. I gave it 2 stars. I think when they told me it was gonna have mystery elements in it, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more of a mystery. It is a YA contemporary, and I didn't feel like it had much mystery in it, and it just, yeah, didn't do it for me. And then I read listened to the last 3 books in the Supper Club Mystery Series, which was The Battered Body, Black Beans and Vice, and Postmortem. And this is from Ellery Adams, and I really enjoy this series, and as a whole it's probably my favorite series from this author. I'm not sure if it's finished exactly or not, because she does have a lot of series, so sometimes she goes back to them after a while. But if it is finished, I think it ended on a high note, and so I'm okay with that. There was only 7 books in the series, but she does have a lot of series that she cuts off fairly short. But then she, like I said, has a lot of cozy mystery series and everything. So if it was the ending, I would be happy with that. I gave all of these 4 stars. They are enjoyable for what they are, cozy mysteries. It's about a group of 5 who meet because they're wanting to lose weight, and I thought it felt very real because they try all kinds of recipes, and they call it the Supper Club, but they also call themselves the Fab Five, and they have tried like the Mediterranean diet, they've tried being vegans, they've tried low carb, they've tried hypnosis, going to a gym, you know, all those kind of things that if you have struggled with losing weight, you can identify with, which is something I can identify with. So I think that's probably why I like the series the most. And yeah, I just really like it. If you like cozy mysteries, you should give the series a try. Then I also listened to Fatal Fabergé by Ellery Adams, which is number 8 in the Antiques and Collectibles series, and it's the last one in that series, like I said, and I don't know if she's finished with that one, because that one just came out, I think, at the beginning of this year, and so she may not be finished with that one, but I am at least caught up on it. And it's about Molly, who works for Collectors Weekly. It's a magazine all about antiques and collectibles, and she has been known for solving a mystery or two, and her now new husband has moved because of his job, and she meets a guy at an, I don't know if it was an antique store or sale or something, but she really wants him to, or no, reverse that. He really wants her to do a article on his father, but when she meets him, she is not a big fan of him, and then he ends up being murdered. And you can kind of see why, because he's not a nice guy. But the guy ends up asking her because, like I said, she is known for solving a mystery or two, and to see what happens, because he doesn't think that it was like an accident or suicide. He thinks that he was murdered. So she does end up looking into that, and I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this series a lot too, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then I listened to The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. Is that how you say it? I think, yeah. Morgenthaler. This is the first book in the Moose Springs series, and it is a contemporary romance that was really cute and adorable, and it's set in Alaska, so why can't, you know, that's a good place to have one set. Everybody likes Alaska. I don't know why, but when something is set in Alaska, you always seem to want to read it. I like reading about cold places. I don't like living in them. Put it that way. And it was cute. I wasn't a huge fan of Graham all the time. He annoyed me a little bit. But for the most part, it was kind of fun. He lives there, and he doesn't like tourists. Although he has a eatery called the Tourist Trap, and he gets most of his money from tourists. But yeah, he doesn't like tourists. But Zoe isn't your normal tourist, because she had to pinch pennies to get the money to go to Alaska, while most of the people that go to Alaska because it is so expensive, probably are rich and know they are and think they're privileged to be there, kind of things. But yeah, she's different than them, and he figures that out along the way, that she's not quite like them, and he starts to like her and everything. And yeah, you know, it's a romance. It was cute. I gave it 4 stars. My friend who read it gave it 5 stars, so she absolutely loved it. And we are going to try the second one. We're going to buddy read the second one, I think in December, because I think it's a Christmas one, kind of, so we're going to do December. I will say that that one's going to have to do a lot to get me to like the main character in this one, because I did not like Alana from the first book. And that's her friend. That's Zoe's friend. And I did not like her. She is a horrible character. She's a horrible friend. So, yeah, to get me to like a romance with her and whoever the person is that's going to be in that one, it's going to have its work cut out for it. But anyway, so that's everything that I either read or listened to in the month of September. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I will see you all next time.